What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Transcendence podcast. I'm G.O.D.
And I'm Ray.
And we're your hosts. Take a journey with us into the realms of some of humanity's most inner thoughts and theories about what lies before us and beyond the other side. Take a step back with us from the day-to-day heavy burdens of this constant evolving life. From awakening the collective, astrology, the spiritual divine, holistic health, shamanism, and quantum theory, to the frequencies and vibrations of our universe, history, religion, numerology, and so much more.
We spend countless hours researching to bring you the breakdown of information from some of the greatest minds in these fields and even our own experiences. We're here to challenge your thoughts so that you can reshape your own minds and beliefs into ones that better serve you.
We hope you enjoy the discussions about the supernatural and the ancient knowledge that we have become so fond of, and we wish to share with you so that it may also help you on your quest in this human experience we're living. Let the transcendence begin. Godspeed and share on. Don't forget to like, follow, and share on our Facebook and Instagram at The Daily Transcendence. Make sure you stay up to date and get notified on new episodes and more content by liking and subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and many more. We want to hear from you all and connect, so message us or email us at thedailytranscendence@gmail.com. As always, we entirely appreciate your support in allowing us to bring to you this transmission.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
We're back.
We're back.
You missed us, didn't you?
Oh my God, different day, same shit.
Yeah. 2 weeks felt like forever.
I know. Kind of itching a little bit.
Yeah, so was I.
But we weren't sitting there on the back burner. We were just, we were getting to work, getting down.
Prepping.
Yeah.
Prepping for 2020. Big year.
Exactly.
We knew it was going to be a big year. And everything we do from here on out is going to affect so much more than last year. We don't know what's coming this year now. You know, we didn't know last year, but things could open up. Maybe things close down. Who knows? But, you know, we're doing a lot to build a platform and really try and get this going. So, yeah, we needed the time off. Plus, you know, holidays.
Yeah, you got to do the whole holiday thing, like kind of forced on society to kind of deal with it and do that. So,
yeah, traditions.
But you don't have to fall into them completely.
No.
So,
but we do.
Yeah. But that's why, no matter what, though, you still find the time, come back to your sovereignty.
Yeah, well, you know, family is important, especially in a time like right now. It's being there for people is important. Yeah,
establishing those connections, because there's enough divisiveness as it is, you know. So you can find every reason why you're different from somebody, but all you need is one really good one,
right?
To understand that, like, oh shit, we're together, not apart.
Yeah. To remind everybody that we're all human and on the same planet, flying like 40,000 miles an hour in space towards whatever, if we're on a round ball. Yeah. And now us recording this, like, it's kind of unexpected with the energies going on in society and the world and even the astrology. Like, we're really expecting too much. Then again, were we expecting? We weren't really coming into this with everything that's now transpired. Right. To happen. Yeah. It's funny when before the whole Capitol Hill thing happened, I watched Leo King's horoscope, and he had said it's going to be chaos. There's going to be something that's out of the ordinary. It's going to be sudden. It's going to be crazy today. Yeah. I mean, he kind of pinpointed that out also in something in 2019, right? Yeah. Well, Rising Through the Darkness was 2017. Now, this is a documentary, like a 5-hour documentary or like lectures from an astrologer, and he had predicted, you know, the crypto, and he predicted chaos within the government and all that other stuff. So he did a really good job, and it's once again goes back to, it's really fun watching all these events unfold and kind of almost expecting them. Yeah, definitely. But, you know, well, it's what we were talking about, though, before we even started hitting record. We were talking about, you know, how people are acting nowadays when it comes to this election. And, you know, we don't want to get too political. Yeah. Too deep into it, but we also don't want to, like, just mask over it and act like we're ignoring it. You know, it's not that you don't ignore it, but you also don't react to it. Right. So, yeah. Well, people are coming off, a lot of what I've noticed is they're coming off like they're fans on a football team or even part of the football team. Yeah. You know, about that color and label. Yeah. The tensions are high too. And it's causing people to come from this really unstable
unstable point of view. Like, you know, maybe not necessarily point of view, but like just the stance. And it's just the stance is unstable. So therefore you're getting all these mixed emotions. And we know what that does. And even this episode is going to go into, you know, about when we're coming from in these emotional states and what those create.
Yeah. We are going to get metaphysical, but it does relate to what's going on the planet and, you know, the frequency changing on the planet, and how that affects us. We talked about, you know, the field and how it works, you know, talking about how astrology works, how we're affected. Like the astrology is saying big change. We had that big conjunction. We have a lot of these malefic placements going on where it's very, you know, darkness getting revealed and things coming up from beneath the, you know, the veil.
Yeah. It's like the acid reflux of society.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one.
Just regurgitate, just, oh God.
Yeah.
Just spit up in my mouth.
What I just can't stand, though, is the intentions behind people right now. And through such a crazy time, people are worried about what team they're on.
Yeah. It's just the lack of full thought process behind any sort of logic that they're supposedly coming from.
Well, what I feel like is if now it's not like let's say, right, hypothetically, because I'm not on either side. I'm for sovereignty. I'm not going to pick a side because neither side is, to me, truthful enough for me to say, okay, I'm leaning. Yeah. More so is I'm still just watching. Yeah. I'm like an unbiased, you know, I'm a neutral party, just observing. And let's say I picked one side, and then the other side that I didn't want to get in, say, was actually the better pick. Somehow there was evidence to really know. Now, as a neutral party, because I'm neutral, I'm going to be able to say, you know what? They're right.
Yeah.
So I can't really be mad the fact that they won. But if I go, I'm hardcore this or I'm hardcore that, and then that side gets in, and now it's like, I don't want to lose.
Yeah. Well, both sides have valid points and opinions and a lot of things that are meant for good and that are good as well. It's just the bipartisan effort to bring those together. But that's where you get and you see how that's been hard to accomplish, that bipartisan effort, because of the fact that there's so many radicalized ideas on all sides of things that people are just really they're really just like diving headfirst into that. And it's this momentum that's been swinging, and they're actually just jumping on that momentum. And therefore it's just bringing even more of that forced flow to it. And that's just really what we end up seeing with that. So it's the thing is, what can we understand now from all this and being in this and all having being affected in some sort of way and watching it on such a global scale as well, and in our immediate environment and in our relationships? What can we do and how can we do it to start to heal that like traumatic way of responding to all this shit?
Yeah, like the emotions are so high, and it's, let's take a breath. Like you had a whole year. Now, not many people had a year off, should I say, but that was a very, like, you know, let's be honest. It was not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah. You had time. There was time to reflect inward.
Yeah. Yeah. And to take care of your emotions. And understandably, if you got kind of fucked over when it comes to money or a job, the whole world's going through this, and it's a reboot. Like, look to see the positive and not to just come off like I'm some airy-fairy, be positive type of person, because I'm really not. I'm actually really about facts. I'm not always airy-fairy positive at all. But when it comes down to it, I just want fact and truth. I just want to learn the situation and then assess it by what's going to be better for all of us, and not by what team or what my emotions are. Because you're coming from a place then of selfishness. You're going to be selfish if you're coming from your own emotions. If you're having an emotional reaction to something, usually it's because something hurt you. Yeah, you're hurt.
But people are forcing these opinions, these emotion-driven opinions, to what they feel is actually true to themselves. But are they kind of orchestrated to think that they're these attributes that are true to themselves?
Well, you know what did it? social media gave everybody this
Media in
I'm
general, yeah.
fucking important attitude.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point, because I think also the fact that we've lost the gratitude of the fact that we have that ability to share our opinions, our thoughts, and our beliefs so freely and easily, to the point that we forget that everybody has that same right. So when it clashes with your ideas, then you all of a sudden feel like it's an attack, but it's not an attack. That's your perception of it.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely what we're going into today is different perspective and learning different systems of thought. But this does relate to the whole election and politics and stuff. Is like, just because someone does think different does not mean that they're a bad person or that they should be opposite of you. Like, we are literally recreating the Civil War right now. We are. Mm-hmm. And due to ideals.
Yeah.
Like, what I think is more important than what you think. And if you don't think what I think, well, fuck you.
Yeah. And we're constantly kind of trying to change always the other individual rather than change our own individual thought process to be able to cooperate with the other individual. And that's what I feel is important, because it's like you're constantly trying to force whatever energetic field that you're tapping into and frequency that you're tapping into, and you're trying to force that to gain like a snowball effect and run over everybody else, that they just have to fall into it, with instead coming from that common core field and just being able to pull that need, and coming from a place of compassion. That's the problem too. That's not coming from compassion, understanding that, like I said, people have these different ideas, thoughts, and opinions. And if you don't agree, or you actually feel like there is some factual things that make that other thing wrong, but nothing is actually necessarily wrong, it's causing you to be able to regress back when you don't have compassion, and you're sitting there not being able to develop that connection with that person, because you're creating a disconnection by being like, oh no, like, we're completely different. We're separate. Mm-hmm. We're not the same.
Yeah. Well, we're actually disconnecting from other people because we're actually disconnected from ourselves.
Yeah.
We really don't know who we are and what we want anymore. It really is like, follow the leader. Someone lays something out for me and I follow. And then what's ironic is people are coming off like, well, no, this is like a me now thing, like, or I'm unique type of society. Like, people don't understand that those, like, the importance you're putting on words and labels are the things that are creating the separation. Red and blue, two different colors. We're forgetting similarities.
Yeah.
We're forgetting that we're all human. And this isn't no hippie shit. It's actually just really simple. Yeah. It's simple. You want to solve the problem? Get your head out of your ass. Like, stop trying to be so different. Like, why don't we find our similarities? Like, maybe because that our society is so built on competition, whether it's the rat race or liking football teams. Like, if you ever watched a football game and certain fans, it's disgusting. Mm-hmm. Like, I love football and I love competition.
Yeah, like some of these people end up in jail because they can't control their fucking tempers over a fucking team.
Right. And that's reflecting back into other areas. It's like, psychologically, we've learned to be like this in a certain fashion when it comes to sports, or when it comes to the rat race and making money. Is like, I need to win. I need to beat this guy. And, the system does train us to be like that.
You're creating very superficial value in that way. There's no real true value within yourself. And I know that sounds kind of like you said, hippie bullshit, but it's true though. It's like, what actual attributes do you feel like you're bringing vitality to in order to show your worth? It's not necessarily, you could have all the things in the world, but still have a shitty personality.
Well, what's your value?
Yeah.
Like, are you valuing not only yourself, are you valuing other people? Like, you're not important until you start making other people important.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's just common sense. Mm-hmm. Like, if it's all about you and if it's all about your team and it's all whatever, like, you ever meet someone, I know plenty of these, I call them one-uppers. Mm-hmm. And, they, I tell them something that maybe I had been proud about with myself and I've achieved something. And they're like, oh, well, cool for you. I got this though.
Yeah. I just did this though.
Yeah. So it's like, we get this like self reinforcement and validation from our gains.
Yeah. You feel like some sort of dominance over the other person.
Yeah. And that's differences. Like because I'm different over my difference better than your difference. So that means I'm more important, and that means I'm more validated.
Yeah.
When yet we're probably most likely not validating ourselves from the start.
Yeah. That's like an outward way of trying to get validation for yourself rather than you actually validating yourself. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. With doing this episode, it's just funny how we're able to rearrange how we were going about things, not necessarily because of anything, but the energies did shift even for us. So, kind of bringing it back to the energetic field, but now getting on more so on a personal level, like how this actually affects us, where we see that we can intervene, and also how it relates to our current circumstances. Well,
yeah. And, the basis of this episode is going to be how we've learned about the field, the energetic field, and we know that we also produce energetic fields and we communicate with it. And that's going to be a big part of it, right? Well, if we're talking about the thoughts and emotions of the whole collective right now, everybody and the division and what people are feeling and sending into the field, the way we're going about everything, if we're talking, using the function of spirituality and, we're talking energy and frequency. And by the way, we're going to go over how this is also science. Like, this isn't woo-woo nonsense. We're not going to talk to woo-woo today. We're going to talk we're going to give you straight facts, give you some experiments and give you some explanations on how, on the quantum level, we're creating reality. We are. And let's just say our most predominant thoughts and states of mind and states of being are sending out those signals, communicating with the field, and we're getting that mirrored back to us. So when you really think about the competitive mindset and the way we go about it, and my importance over your importance, and my team over your team, we're recreating it constantly.
Yeah.
I'm black, you're white. So that makes us different. So we're sending out this different frequency.
Yeah.
And then it's in the mirror. We're looking at it going, we're different. And because we're different, well, my difference better than yours. Like, we've gotten into this whole competitive mindset, and it's not going to shift until we shift. It's not about the president. It's not.
No. And that's where we're going to take the universal knowledge and start applying it, and to understand and create that unity within ourselves. This way we could actually start acting as a unit, as a whole. So yeah, like you said, we spoke how there's an etheric field of energy that surrounds Earth, it surrounds space, the body, so on. And we described its makeup and its properties, and even how it's depicted by ancient cultures, religion, and esoteric sciences. Now that we generally understand that we are connected to this field through consciousness, what does that mean for ourselves individually? What does that mean for us as a whole? So in this episode, we are going to go further into understanding our ability to tap into this field and others, and how we're able to do that. We'll talk about the different mechanisms of spiritual and physical nature, and also how we influence the manifestation process of creation, both voluntarily and involuntarily, consciously and unconsciously.
Yeah, which unconsciously we do it and don't, it is unconscious. We don't even realize we're doing it. And it's showing on the media and on social media and everywhere. Yeah.
So we're gonna show how this all relates back to our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, and show you how to gain further awareness about your consciousness and the environment, the universe, our physical body. And this is going to be kind of a brief overview of that, which kind of leads to this, in a way, newer series of the information we're going to be bringing to you, and that we're going to, go and dive deeper in other episodes. So you'll also get to see how astrology ties into this understanding of the energy in the field, but on an even more personal level, like I said. With that, you can really begin to truly heal and create a reality that you desire. So in our previous episode, we mentioned the function and power, not only that the brain has, but the heart as well. We said how it has many neurons and receptors to the field, just like the brain does. So with knowing that, we know the heart is important to leading the way to these higher frequencies that we talk about that are within the field, and that are able to help you shift into a more abundant timeline or experience. It isn't a direct arrival, though, nor does it mean that you're guaranteed to stay there. But once you've done the work and done it enough times, you begin to more easily maintain that higher vibrational frequency, and then it starts to become an involuntary or unconscious active doing. So you have your higher vibrational self. Your higher vibrational self is one that is ahead of the curve, proactive and honest, that's compassionate and also love-based. Your lower vibrational self is one that provides you with intuition, but it's tied to the ego and desires on a more physical and superficial level.
Yeah, and let me clear this up for anybody who's, say, new to hearing, say, vibration or frequency, and to clear it up that it's not just a spiritual, crackpot thing. Like, vibration is the fact that it's energy vibrating at a frequency, and everything has a frequency, including your thoughts.
That's right.
And including your emotions.
Let them know.
And your higher self is when you're vibrating high in higher emotions.
Yes.
Things that make good feelings.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
Exactly. And that's how it relates back to the feelings. So with knowing that, the lower self then is more reactive to the curve, unlike the higher self. So as an example, think about if you discovered something about someone close to you. Maybe you feel angry, then you feel hurt, then you're okay with it, and then you're angry again, and so on. To lead with your heart is to notice these feelings as they move. Then as you move through the emotions, you start developing thoughts and beliefs about the person, the situation, or circumstances. That is where we have the ability to channel our emotions and consciousness into a more proactive path that further helps us tap into the outcome or perception our heart truly desires, and that'll bring us more unity to our higher vibrational self, that higher state of consciousness frequency that's within the field. The heart leads the way, and if you have the mind right, use it. That means letting it take you through the emotions responsibly, but letting the heart decide. Because
it is its own brain. It has neurons. It's our connection to, say, the divine intelligence. We did explain that during the divine matrix and how the heart is connected to the field. And the field is where, when they say God is love, it's a frequency that we tap into. Mm-hmm. And it's not just love like love you intimate. Like, love is a state of God. And it's having the ability to tap into your highest version of yourself. It's having this unconditional openness and compassion for others and the world. Mm-hmm. And the universe is so perfect, like it's designed so perfect, that if you're in that state, if you vibrate higher, mm-hmm. you have access to better thoughts. You have access to better feelings. And that leads to better manifestations. Yeah.
And then, to even go further off that, we know that, say, an emotion like love is a frequency, because there has been experiments done, because we know that water holds memory, and it holds an energetic pattern memory.
Right.
And when giving off this energetic, whether, say, it was somebody, and I know this sounds crazy, but it actually was a thing, sitting in front of a glass saying loving things coming from the heart and speaking that into the water.
Dr. Emoto.
Yeah. And then when checking it under the microscope and everything, you see in the wave and the particles and how it comes together to go into that frequency and give us an actual visual picture of what that shape or frequency is for that emotion.
Yeah, so emotions have a measurement, mm-hmm. and this shows through the electromagnetic field of human beings and other, conscious beings.
Yeah.
So because these things are measured, doing the whole water experiment, it was physical proof that things had a different frequency, because when you crystallize the water, it'd be different geometrical shapes. When it was lower negative vibrations and frequencies coming off, I think the one thing he had said or written on paper, he put it on the glass, it said, "I hope you die," or "I will kill you," mm-hmm. or something along the lines. And it was just a mess.
Chaotic.
It was chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're 80 to 90% water.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're vibrating, feeling lower states of emotion, what are we doing to our the water in our body? What are we doing to our whole being? We're hurting our physical body.
Yeah. And especially if we know that, there's a constant misconception that matter affects the field, but really it's the field that affects matters. So with that concept in mind, you got to think about already just us as these bodies, as beings. We have so much that goes on in our environment between the air, food, the news, all this stuff that creates a certain environment that does affect us in that way.
Yeah.
So why are you going to contribute to it when you know that you have the ability to actually kind of redefine that environment that's affecting you? And it comes through, the emotions, the thoughts about things. So that's where you really start.
Yeah. And there was, to show that the field, affects matter, meaning energy, our energy, emanating from our heart, affects the field. There was this thing called the geostationary operational environmental satellite. And yes, I am reading that. It measures the Earth's electromagnetic field. And it still goes on today. They've been doing it for decades now. And every day, day by day, it measures the field. And ironically, on a day where everything got real emotional, can you recall a day where, I know that things have been emotional lately, but what was one of the biggest emotional uproars ever?
9/11.
Right. So on 9/11, the readings were haywire. They spiked. So the Global Coherence Initiative, that's what it was called, believed that there was a feedback loop between the magnetic and energetic systems of human beings and the Earth. Accordingly, when a large number of people generated a common emotional feeling, a lot of people felt the way on 9/11.
Yeah.
Such as in response to that global event, it altered the Earth's magnetic and energetic field.
And think about the connectivity between everybody's feelings that day, because how much communication was going on between everybody trying to reach out to everybody, call this one, call that one. Oh my God, do you see what's on the news? Everybody was even more connected that day.
Yeah, well, also, we'll go into this, is when you're thinking similar thoughts to people, you're actually tapping into, say, like an information structure. Like picture, just say a cloud or a hard drive. And when you're thinking and feeling a certain way, you're accessing that part of the hard drive. You're accessing that part of the field. And when people around the Earth are thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same feelings, you're actually tapping into each other because you're running off the same frequency.
Yeah.
You're going into the same network. So when on a day like that, where everyone was focused on the chaos, on the terror, on the sadness and all that, and they were communicating and sharing those feelings, we all connected, and it may have been in a lower state, but we all did come together. And then it showed
for survival,
right?
Yeah.
And it showed through measurements on a graph, on a meter. And the Earth's magnetic field shifted. And I'll repeat, it was the Global Coherence Initiative, and it was by the Heart Math Institute. And they have all the studies on the internet. You can Google it. So how would that even occur, right? Like how because we feel the same feelings, how would we affect the Earth?
Yeah.
Well, we'll start at the human heart is the most powerful source of electromagnetic energy in the body. It produces an electrical field 60 times stronger than the brain and a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger than the brain. So the emotional state of the heart being measured in electromagnetic energy, we now know it extends outward into space. Some scientists think like a mile. Every time your heart beats, it's sending out this wall of energy, and it's you're communicating into the field, and you're hitting other people. Like, when you walk into a room and someone that maybe you don't like, or they have this type of vibe, and you're like, oh, I feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, they're actually hitting you with their vibrations.
So think about it. We have different, like, if it's vibrating like that, we probably have so many different thoughts and emotions going on that we're not even really conscious to, that we're not primarily focused on.
Right.
Because there's only so much that we can take in our conscious mind of our surroundings, especially with even just our sight and our visuals of things too.
And when two humans communicate, we know this, that it's not only really words, but gestures and body language. And they also communicate, now we know, electromagnetically. So you have all these different ways of communicating. You have all these different thoughts and energies in the air. And then we know when we're feeling the same way or thinking the same way, spikes happen in the earth. Like, it shows that we're connected to something, which the field. We are connected electromagnetically. And it leads us into the fact that we want to talk about how we're going to change ourselves to manifest and to bring new and different things into our life for a better life, for a better experience, for healing and for health and for, to get in that state of love again so we could start manifesting, because it's not just physical. We're manifesting from the spiritual.
Yeah. And I do want to just help them understand as well, the listener, about even just to see how it relates to the physical and how you see that it actually does come back into the more mental as well. So we know that there's an innate intelligence that is part of the field and runs that's how the universe operates.
There's an operator. Right?
Yes. But we also know that innate intelligence is within our biology as well, and that our body feeds off of it. With that intelligence, if we connect to it, give it the genetic blueprint of our desires that we want to see and manifest, and allow that intelligence to channel through our energy centers of our body by using our emotions, thoughts, and feelings, then we should be able to physically and perceptually change our experiences in this reality. So how do we know this to be true? Well, just like everything else we do here, let's look at the picture within the picture of what we know to be a fractal reality, and then repeat that again. So we know the body and the mind. We know when they're in pain or distress or trauma, we prepare for the worst, and we choose the worst thing that could happen to us instead of the best.
Naturally.
Yes, naturally we do that. We do that. When we do that, it causes a response of fear or anger that releases a chemical reaction through our hormones to regulate the body for that worst possible outcome. And if you think about it too, hormones, I think it was Joe Dispenza that said it, where it was like hormones harmonize. The hormones release a harmony of vibrational frequencies, and those are the messages to the body, which we're going to get into.
This is why music is the most spiritual thing ever, because it relates to everything. Because it is frequency.
And just like in the Bible, it started with a word.
And he said,
let there be light. Messages. So these hormones tell our body how to breathe, pump blood, body temperature regulation, how to grow, eat, drink. The hormones flow through the whole body, but only affect certain cells designed to receive their messages. Hormone receptor sites work together like a lock and key. The hormone travels to whichever cells in the body that need to be activated or altered in order to respond to the trigger. So when they do, there's a protein exchange with many variables, which interacts with the genetic makeup of the cell that causes it to adapt. And in that microcosmic function is where we can see the interaction of the body with this innate intelligence that we see throughout the universe. So how does that help us knowing that? Well, if we can regulate the stimulus that activates us to have a response or reaction, then we can focus on what we want to tell the cells in our body when those hormones are being released. Between the nervous system and the endocrine system, they are ultimately signaling to our body function through vibrational patterns on a molecular scale. This means there is a frequency being engaged during these functions, and that we have the ability to understand the patterns and then understand how to be signaling the right frequencies for us in our body. It's showing us that the field is actually changing the molecule, not the molecule changing the field, like I said earlier. Our feelings and our perception is what is laying out the template in the field for the molecule to mold to. So it's just, we've seen this before with brain scans, where it's possible to change the brain in like 4 days. And 80% out of 1,000 have showed that you can change your brain just by meditation alone. Now, there's more to that than just meditation. But anyway, so the evidence is there. We know that you can train your heart to work more coherently. We see this through the heart beating out of rhythm when you're in an emotional state, and that causes certain suppressions on your genes. So it is then affecting your genetic makeup or expression.
Epigenetics.
Exactly.
Above. Epi means above, and that means your environment is actually affecting your genetics and your body.
And your genome expression is basically what kind of gives you a lot of characteristics in many ways, whether it's just even how an organ is, regenerating as well.
Studies do find now that it's 25% from your mother, 25% from your father, 50% from your environment.
So ultimately, this is changing how you develop and grow on a cellular level. You can change your immune system. You can lengthen your life. But that's not even the amazing part about it. The amazing thing about it is that we all have the ability to do this. And that's what we want to talk about. We want to get into with everybody because, if you understand it on the physical level, then you also are able to see how it occurs through your thoughts and emotions as well, and to change like those certain outcomes of what you experience.
Right. So foundationally understanding how the field works, how frequency and vibration are so important, because that's how the field's talking. So that means that's how you're talking to the field. And since everything else is the field, well, it's how you're talking to everything else. So the emotions and thoughts coming off of you and your states of mind, it's not just in your head.
Yeah.
It's outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it being outside of you and inside of you, you're having an effect both in and out. You're affecting the people around you and your environment is affecting you. And even, your body responding, your body is having an energetic shift. It's starting to show, whether it's your blood pressure or, it's, your heart racing or something like that. Like your thoughts affect way more than what you consider.
Yeah, exactly. And we can see this with stress. So like, when it comes to this, short-term stress causes illnesses like headaches or like tension, fatigue, stuff of that sort. But chronic stress causes disease. So we're talking about emotional stress. We're talking about physical stress, mental stress. So if you're living in constant fear, then you're producing that fear response in the body. And it's causing your body to utilize all its vital resources to adapt to the environment you're in. Or should I say that you are telling the body that you're in. So you can be physically healthy and eat right, exercise, but still you can cause these diseases to turn up in the body. Maybe it's because you're always in fear of getting sick or hurt or being unhealthy or being in poverty. So since the body is a mass protein producing machine, it makes sense that a gene needs to be signaled in order to make the protein. So if the gene is constantly being signaled by your emotions from a thought of something, you are then telling the gene what environment it's encountering and what to prepare for. So if your thoughts are constantly, I don't want to get sick or hurt or be unhealthy, that thought is causing the emotional response of fear and worry. And that emotional response is signaling to prepare for the worst. And the genetic signal is that worst environment scenario. And in that, there's a sort of genetic mutation or suppression. And this can lead to diseases and energy blocks in the body. So with knowing that, now you can see the flip side of that when having more balanced thoughts and regulated emotions. Taking this concept a step forward and what we know about energy, we can bring conscious awareness to specific points in the body and intentionally heal certain organs or parts of the bodies. You can see how meditational practices tend to be a main factor in doing so.
Huge with yoga.
Yeah, exactly.
Yoga is all about energy work.
Mm-hmm. And all these, they point out these key points in the body that we often hear as chakras.
Yeah.
Chakras.
Chakra.
But what are they exactly and what's the importance? So we'll go into that. And yes, this change happens in your body and can happen on a physical level, but we're also going to explain how that happens in more of a mental and spiritual level as well.
Yeah, well, it's all connected into one system. It's one ecosystem. So what happens on the physical will manifest more so in the spiritual. It will, and in the mental. So if you get hurt or something happens, say in the physical world to cause an emotional reaction, well, the physical just changed the spiritual. It just changed your emotion. It just changed your energy, your frequency. Right. And along the spine, you have these main points we call chakras. And what those are psychological points in the body, and they're measured by frequency.
Yeah.
For example, you would say the sexual thoughts are going to vibrate at the frequency of the sacral chakra, which is by the gonads, right? So these are psychological centers where thoughts and feelings get stuck in, and they create blocks. So if you have some traumatic thought, not only are you having the hormonal reaction and your blood pressure is raising through the roof or whatever it is. Gio, if I was to cut your head open, right? Mm-hmm. And you had some traumatic thought in your head.
Yeah.
And I cut it open, would I find the thought?
Nope. Just some blood.
and because these thoughts are being transmitted on the quantum level, energetically. And new studies show that, thoughts aren't actually in the brain. They're picked up from the field.
Yeah.
Everything's in the field. It's not about being in the brain is like a quantum receiver.
Yeah.
And you're able to tap into frequencies and sections of the field. It's like a hard drive. So these psychological centers, they rule, say, areas of thought and certain emotions. Like you'll get positive and negative emotions of, say, the root. If you're overactive in the root, you're going to have overactive root-like problems. You're going to have you're going to be insecure. If it's blocked, you're going to be insecure. You're not going to feel, your primal nature will be, basically it's silent. Like you won't, if you have a blocked root chakra, you are not in your lower state very well, or if it's overactive, you're going to be overly sexual and you're going to be all about security and being dominant and being primal and stuff like that. And that's how you know that it's almost like the chakras give the ability to have a measurement and to understand what parts of the bodies, because around that same area of the body, you'll start developing an illness. Mm-hmm. So if you have, say, a blockage and a trauma in a certain type of area, the chakras are a way to kind of read on the body where energetically you would have these things, which leads down to the physical.
Exactly.
So the chakra are actually known really as energy centers, are points of connection in which energy flows from one vehicle or body of man to another. We also communicate it to each other. These are the wheels that we talk with energetically.
It means disc or wheels in Sanskrit.
Right.
And they're along the spine, corresponding to certain nerve bundles and also major organs. Yeah.
They're the major centers of radiant power. Within it are like subtle energy or emotional bodies. Mm-hmm. And according to the general understanding, there's 7 main points representing the energetic intersections between physical matter and your consciousness. Each chakra is like an antenna, like constantly receiving and transmitting energy from the environment and from other people. How smoothly your chakras function determines how fully you inhabit your body, how successful you are in your relationships due to the conversations you're having energetically with people, and how much inner peace you enjoy through the functionality and through the harmony that your body, or hormonally, your body is processing everything.
Yeah. So when you're experiencing a block or deficiency, you can experience physical or emotional symptoms related to that particular energy point. Most of the main 7, starting at the roots or the base of your spine, that go up to the crown or the top of your head. This is always a good starting point, though, to understand. When you really understand the function of them, it's really good for understanding the relational awareness between the mind, body, and spirit. Did we mention what they are? I mean, I know most people know what the 7 chakras are.
I want to do a whole episode on the chakras and the energy body. And because, I'm at this point, I really am getting into health and the healing aspect of spirituality and learning to heal the body, especially after the past few years of dealing, taking herbs and cell salts and stuff like that, and learning about homeopathic medicine and the energy body. I cured a friggin' an infected tooth.
Yeah.
Through homeopathic, just understanding what certain minerals and things to do energetically. I mean, even things like yoga and Reiki and stuff like that they've proven to be efficient.
And this is important. So we don't necessarily need to constantly go to pharmaceutical measures, that sometimes don't have their benefits. I know there's a time and place for it, but there's also ways that, it could be very costly and expensive and traumatic and invasive as well. So there's a way also to be able to maintain this holistic way of taking care of your body as well.
Right. And so why it would be important to connect the spiritual to the physical and learn about your chakras and your energy body is because the things in your energy body coming along, say more so many of the new age beliefs and my beliefs, just because from experience, is if you have a trauma or a blockage, not only does it show up in the body, but it also shows up in your reality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you have, say, a fear of, I've met women who have a fear of sex because they had some kind of trauma happen with sex, right?
Yeah.
Well, I could see them manifest the same guys that give them the trauma. And because it's stuck in the body.
And it's constantly triggering it, and it's that constant cycle back.
Well, the energy's trapped in the body.
Yeah.
And that frequency is emanating from that. Mm-hmm. So to learn to clear your energy body is actually clearing up your life.
Yeah.
It's clearing up the things you're manifesting. Mm-hmm. So it's important to know about your energy body, how it works. It's really there. Like right now, we don't have instruments to really measure the actual chakras, but we do have electromagnetic instrumentation, right?
But also something that we can, in a way, use this physical anatomy to measure those chakras. We also know that the 7 chakras are also connected to the major endocrine glands in the body. So I was talking about hormones before being a part of all this and how their function work with our DNA and our genomes and all that. So this is how you could even see how the endocrine glands are connected to these energy points.
Well, there's a lot of activity going on in the endocrine. That's the main centers physically in the body, sending the messages, right? And like say we do have, there's a chakra called the solar plexus, right? But in actual medical school, they teach you that there is a solar plexus. It's a bundle of nerves crisscrossing in your stomach, and that's when you get your butterflies or you get nervous on a date or this or that.
Yeah, and the nervous system and the endocrine system is what's sending those messages to be able to respond to what kind of environment you're in.
Right. So a chakra would be any location where 2 or more nadis or subtle channels in which energy flows cross. They're junctions of vibrant energy, our chi, our prana. And actually many of the smaller chakras, because there's many more, these are the 7 main ones. The smaller ones are what you would see used in acupuncture. That's where they're putting those needles. They know the nodes of the energy body. And that's why, when people go and they can go for emotional blockages, it's not just say physical, like they have a bad leg or a bad knee or it's something along the body where they're acupunctures for healing energy.
It's releasing those channels and unblocking those more specific channels and nerve endings.
Right. And you could think of the effect as kind of like a telephone exchange. Like with many wires, and the wires are the nadis as you would call it, the subtle energy.
Operator changing. Please hold.
Right. and coming in, going out, and constantly communicating. And sometimes you'll get your occasional telemarketer, gets in there and is pissing you off, won't go away.
I thought I unsubscribed to this shit.
You can compare the chakra system even to like the internet, like every part of the web connecting directly to every other part. So everything's connected energetically. And it kind of sounds like something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We made a whole episode about how the field is basically a giant nervous system.
7 and 8. Check them out if you haven't already.
Yep.
This ties this all together.
Yep. And the word chakra it's actually a bit misleading because it's usually translated as wheel. However, a wheel can only it can go forward and backwards. And when you want to like drive your car, say to the right, you turn the wheels in the direction and you go forward, right? Or backwards. In fact, each chakra is more like a multi-dimensional ball of radiant energy. It's like a vortex or an energetic torus field. And what that means is its movement takes place on a circular donut-like axis in like a twisting motion. And they're conduits so that they conduct and transform subtle energy into material form. So bringing the energy into material, bringing it into the nervous system.
Yeah. So I'm going into, it shows this. We see it actually happen within our body. Like I mentioned, the glands, starting from the crown to the root, the glands that would be associated would be starting at the crown, like I said, pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the thyroid, the thymus, the pancreas, the ovaries and testes, and then the adrenal glands, which are the root. So now, knowing how hormones change our genetic signals and how we evolve, we can see how the chakra energy points are not just some sort of spiritual Vedic teaching only. Energetic blocks, imbalances, and energy sabotaging habits, they prevent us from accessing our full vitality on an everyday basis. And this leads us to feel exhausted, scattered, dull, and even ill.
Yeah, well, because some can be blocked, some can be, like, think of it as it's energy's being dispersed, and it has to be dispersed in a balanced, and you got to run, like, picture you have a house and you're running all the power to the living room, and you're not getting any power in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to turn on the TV, enjoy yourself in your own bed. You got to go to the one room. Mm-hmm. Your body's kind of like that house, and it's like you're trying to send each room an equal amount of energy.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, the house doesn't function properly. Not everything's happy in the house.
Yeah. So you got say you got a basement, and you got the sub pump and the pipes, and your pipes are blocked up, towards the top of the house, not where the basement is. So when it's trying to pump that water out, it's getting blocked, and it's flowing back down to that energy point, and it's creating an overflow right there in the basement. Shit everywhere.
Yeah.
I had that problem in an old house.
How ironic.
Except for the shit everywhere. It didn't really back up like that, but we had problems.
Right. So if the chakras aren't functioning properly, like Gio said, the associated body organs and systems will become impaired. Mm-hmm. And since each of the 7 chakras represents like a particular energy frequency, when they're fully functional and connected, they provide incredible creative control over your physical body itself, and even your mental state. It's everything, literally your mind, body, and spirit. It's like the signature of all that, and the proper functionality mm-hmm. of every aspect of you is coming from that energy body.
So the sacral chakra, the adrenal glands, this regulates the immune system, we know, metabolism, and it's the fight or flight, considered with the vagus nerve, your bladder, your prostate, also ovaries, it could be the kidneys as well, gallbladder, bowel, and your spleen. So let's talk about a blockage there and then freeing it up, what it's like.
Well, you're going to experience lack of creativity. Mm-hmm. And because you're using a lot of that energy, it has to take energy from other sources. Yeah. So now it's going to be siphoning from the root. One key word is imbalanced.
Yeah, imbalance.
You're overusing something. It could be anything. For example, let's go to more of a soft subject. Sure. We'll talk about the heart. So let's say my heart chakra's turned on, and what's the vibrations and feelings and frequencies of the heart? What do we think? Well, we think compassion. Mm-hmm. We think, feeling for people, loving people. Well, if I have an overactive heart chakra, I'm going to be siphoning energy from my lower chakras. Now I'm going to have no balls, and I'm going to be constantly letting people walk all over me.
Exactly.
I'm going to be overly emotional.
Be gullible, like shit like that.
Yeah. Or throat chakra. Mm-hmm. Throat chakra turns on. Well, what that is you're very pushy with your opinions. And so that's how you would know. So you look at yourself or another human being and you go, what are their imbalances?
Yeah.
Oh, those are their imbalances. If you're real honest with yourself, that's what we got. Okay. I jerk off too much. Well, how do I rebalance that? And when you figure it out, mm-hmm. Now you start rebalancing yourself on the energetic level, because we all know now that the field or the energy manifests the physical. So if spiritually you're starting out imbalanced, the physical would manifest into imbalance.
Yeah.
But if you learn how to balance the spiritual, the physical fixes itself.
There you go. Exactly.
It's a result. Mm-hmm. The physical is always a result of the spiritual. That's the secret.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really important to find that balance. And it's great about it is it brings you to more self-awareness. I feel like the more self-awareness you have, as long as you're not too absorbed in your self-awareness, anything has to be in balance, like we always say. But you really get to better be in the driver's seat of your life.
Well, well, you know what? You're becoming more aware of every aspect of yourself. And these 7 energy centers are every aspect of you as a human being and as a spiritual being.
Yeah.
So by understanding and using the physical, say, not as to define yourself emotionally or spiritually, but using the physical to understand what you are spiritually and what you're not.
There you go. You can actually see, you have physical proof then. Of what you're doing.
And this is how smart the universe is. It's a mirror, right? And I've said this. Since the universe is a mirror, well, all you have to do is analyze your life and your circumstances and your situation and your body and the state of all these things, and you'll understand where you are spiritually, as long as you're honest with yourself. You know, so by working with your chakras, you could reintroduce a full healthy flow. And the real challenge really is identifying the blockages and misconceptions. We already really aren't honest with ourselves a lot, you know, not saying everybody, I'm not speaking for everybody, but a majority of people I know or I've seen, and this can go all the way up to celebrities. You could see where they're blocked, or you could see where their imbalances are as a human being. And no one's a bad human being for that, you know, meaning like it's not really our fault, but this is part of the journey. Now, we learned in school the physical, we learned in school the mental. We know this is what you do, and you go to gym class and you learn about the body, and you go to health and learn about, you know, sexual education and all that. And they teach you all the physical things, but they lacked in the understanding of the spiritual knowledge, which affects everything the most.
Yeah. They don't really go into how much makes everything seem like it's just involuntary, but you know, there is a lot of stuff that you can contribute to it. And, you know, that's the things that aren't being taught. So, you know, I know we moved on a little bit and went to the heart and the throat a little bit and stuff, but just real quick, because they're considered the root, the sacral, and then you have the solar plexus are the lower 3.
You ever see the big mafia boss, the big Italiano, and he's got the big belly? Well, the solar plexus would, the physical manifestation would be power. Yeah.
And that's the pancreas, regulates metabolism, glucose levels, the digestive enzymes as well. And that's the thing about the lower 3. They aren't bad. They aren't they're
an aspect of us.
They're necessary for survival. The lower allows you to jump out of the way of an oncoming car. The second is necessary for producing the testosterone and estrogen in order to be able to procreate. The third, which is seen as the ceiling of the ego, is the power that drives you to get up and stand for something you believe in, or using that gut feeling. So to be able to digest and receive the nutrients your body needs to function. But what happens when we move past those instinctual survival driven centers? What happens when you're living in the ones above those? Once the energy reaches the heart opens up and it acts as an amplifier and moves up into the rest. This all happens in frequencies.
Yeah,
that's the point of it.
And hence the 9/11 when they did the whole, you know, they measured the the frequency of the earth. You just said the heart is an amplifier. You know?
Yeah.
And because it's an amplifier, it's a very important chakra to have open, because that's what's mainly, you know, communicating to the world energetic. It's like your strongest energetic center. You know, it's why a lot of religions really focused on the heart, you know, God's in the heart and all that. And because it's our divine connection, it's our ability to tap into the divine knowledge of the universe when we live from the heart. When you live from the heart, any decision's easy.
Yeah. And think about it this way. So we talk about the solar plexus and the heart being an amplifier. You know, what if you have a hard time giving speeches in front of people and all that stuff, and you go and you check out the awareness of your solar plexus? You know, you would think like, oh, throat chakra. Well, yeah, but you look at all the other ones as well, too, and you see, and then say you get that imbalance, you're able to drive that power up into your heart chakra that allows you to come from a place of passion and therefore is expressed out to your throat chakra.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of emotional process in that and practice as well. But that's just, you know, kind of an example. So, I mean, we went into the heart, you know, the heart being, you know, when associated with a gland would be the thymus. And that regulates body temperature, heart rate, your immune system, the nervous system as well. And that's like, you know, heart and lungs. And then we said about the throat being the thyroid. We even know in astrology, Taurus to be also a thing of the thyroid as well, the throat, the vocal cords. That also helps with metabolic rate, controlling the heart and the muscles, and even digestive functions as well. So, we kind of gave an example for the heart and the throat as well. But the next thing, and we always hear these a lot too, is also the third eye.
This is a big one.
Third eye and the crown. Let's just talk about those two.
Let me just say that a lot of people claim to focusing on opening the third eye.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly think that a lot of people don't know. It's an assumption thing, and it became a trend.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the thing, especially when you don't have the lower three balanced out, I don't see the power being able to be driven, because you kind of do. You need those lower three to pull some sort of physical power, like it's this physical instinctual thing that helps to keep you on track. And like we said, for the heart being the amplifier, like you need to be able to draw power from somewhere to be able to have that third eye to be open and to be receiving of certain knowledge and stuff, because the third eye is also associated with the pituitary gland. I know that there's relations with the pineal as well, but it's also the pituitary gland. And we know that produces hormones and governs functions of all the other 5 glands. So, this affects the body chemistry. So, like I said, you kind of need the other ones too, if you want your third eye to be functioning in a correct manner.
Yeah. It's not like, I think what it is they take the third eye concept and they go, oh, my third eye is open, so I'm woke.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And not the woke in, say, spiritual terms, like I'm woke, like I saw a few police brutality videos, I watched the media, know they're corrupt, I'm woke.
Mm-hmm.
And to immediately assume that and to not have the rest of yourself put together is dangerous, because one, you're actually stunting your growth.
Yeah, you're solidifying a belief system that you didn't really regulate to.
No, right.
Or check out.
Yeah.
Fully.
And you're a whole machine. So if you're lacking the 3 lower chakras, which rule all the earthly things, it's like, you know what? Someone who just has their third eye open are like the people who just surf the internet and read about woke things and never bring it into the physical.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly spiritual. They're maybe even the ones just meditating on the beach and forget about the physical. Like that would be, say, a manifestation of lacking the 3 lower. It's like you have no financial security. You don't have any real power
mm-hmm.
or ability to do anything in the earth realm. You don't get laid.
Yeah.
That's
what I mean. The bottom 3 is what kept primitive man to be able to survive and thrive.
Yeah.
To be able to adapt to situations, to be able to have that chance to have more of an experience of this life and this reality.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important.
So you could see then, the fact is, the frequency and field affect the actual physical things. And there are conduits. There are things that bring the spiritual into the physical. And it does go both ways, but why we focus on this is because people have lost sight or never even have learned the fact that the spiritual affects the physical. The energetic affects matter. Energy makes matter.
Mm-hmm.
There technically is no matter, because matter is just frequency. It's just vibration. There's no such, if you go down to the smallest particle, there's nothing there but energy.
Exactly.
So there's no matter. Everything is spiritual, is my point.
Yeah.
Everything's vibrating. So it's very important in this new, area, this uncharted waters that we just entered in. We want to bring light to the fact that we are affecting each other without even realizing that we're affecting each other. And this is on an energetic and, emotional level. We're communicating to each other via our chakras, via our emotions and feelings, our state of being. We're sending out these signals, and we're constantly creating our reality and others around us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're sending ill will to people, we're sending it back to ourselves. So there's no use in drinking the punch with the poison in it. Getting someone to drink the punch and then you drink it with them, basically, by doing that.
So yeah, this is all in ways to understand how we connect, and seeing it through the physical, we realize that there is just this spiritual aspect of it. And that's really part of the next part of what we want to get into. I know we mentioned it a little bit early on with reality transurfing, but now we could go further into that because we understand how these functions happen on such a physical level, but there's still that etheric spiritual field that there's an occurrence even between when we look at, say, the proteins, with the proteins connecting with, the genes and the DNA as well. There's still that spooky stuff going on there. So on that note, don't forget to follow, like, share, join us on our social media pages. Like I said, it's very important. We're in the process of constructing our actual website, and we'll have more features as well for you. But for now, stay tuned to us there, and we'll be back in a jiff.